Imagine a quiet river, a place of peace and nature. Now, imagine that same river becoming a graveyard, its waters holding the darkest secrets of a community. This is the chilling reality of the Green River Killer case. A story that haunted Washington state for decades and exposed the terrifying truth that a monster could be living right next door. Between the early 1980s and the late 1990s, a shadow fell over the Seattle-Tacoma area. Young women, many of them vulnerable runaways or sex workers, began to disappear. Their bodies would later be found in and around the Green River, discarded and left in clusters. The community was gripped by fear. A serial killer was on the loose, and no one knew who he was or when he would strike next. In 1982, the King County Sheriff's Office formed the Green River Task Force, one of the longest and most expensive investigations in American history. They were hunting a phantom. The killer was cunning, leaving behind very little evidence. He targeted women on the fringes of society, women he thought no one would miss. But he was wrong. Their families missed them. The detectives on the case never forgot them. The task force worked tirelessly, chasing down thousands of leads. They had suspects, they had theories, but nothing concrete. One name that came up early on was Gary Ridgway, a local truck painter. He was interviewed in 1984, even passed a polygraph test. He seemed like an ordinary guy, married a regular churchgoer. He blended in perfectly, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Despite their suspicions, police just didn't have the evidence to connect him to the crimes. Years turned into a decade, and then another. The case went cold. The families of the victims lived in a torturous limbo, desperate for answers that never came. The killer, meanwhile, continued his horrific spree, believing he was untouchable. He was methodical, choosing his victims carefully and disposing of their bodies in remote wooded areas, making them incredibly difficult to find. The breakthrough, when it finally came, wasn't from a confession or a witness. It was from science. In the late 1990s, advancements in DNA technology allowed investigators to re-examine old evidence. In 2001, they tested semen samples found on some of the earliest victims. They got a match. The DNA belonged to Gary Ridgway, the man they had questioned almost 2 decades earlier. The net finally closed. On November 30, 2001, Gary Ridgway was arrested. The quiet truck painter, the man who lived a seemingly normal life, was unmasked as one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. The public was shocked. How could this man, who lived and worked among them for so long, be responsible for such unimaginable evil? To avoid the death penalty, Ridgway made a deal. He agreed to confess to all his crimes and lead investigators to the remains of his undiscovered victims. What followed was a series of horrifying confessions. Ridgway, with a chilling lack of emotion, detailed his crimes. He admitted to killing so many women he lost count. He spoke of his methods, his motives, a deep-seated hatred for sex workers, and his ability to compartmentalize his life, to be a killer one moment and a husband the next. He led investigators to remote sites, pointing out the final resting places of women who had been missing for years. His cooperation brought a painful closure to many families, finally allowing them to bring their loved ones home. In 2003, Gary Ridgway pleaded guilty to 48 counts of aggravated first-degree murder. He was later convicted of a 49th. His official victim count is 49, but he claimed to have killed as many as 70 or 80 women. The true number may never be known. Ridgway was sentenced to 49 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, one for each of his confirmed victims. During his sentencing, something remarkable happened. The family members of his victims were given the chance to speak to him directly. Their words were filled with pain, with anger, but also with incredible strength. One father, Robert Rule, whose daughter Linda was murdered by Ridgway, told him, "Mr. Ridgway, I forgive you." His act of grace in the face of pure evil was a powerful testament to the human spirit. The Green River Killer case is a story of tragedy and loss, but it's also a story of persistence. It's about the dedicated detectives who never gave up, the scientists who provided the crucial link, and the families who endured unimaginable grief while fighting for justice. It serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can hide in plain sight, and the importance of remembering every single victim, not just the monster who took their lives. Thank you for watching.